Let us begin this session by thinking of a situation. Just imagine that you're waiting outside an elevator inside a building and that there are two other people waiting along with you. The door opens and you see a man walking out, and as he walks out, he also keeps coughing. The man left the elevator now and there's no one inside. Would it be safe to enter the elevator now? Or would it be safe to just let the other two people go first? Or would it be safe to wait for some time? Or would you rather prefer using the staircase? 4 or 5 months ago, this would have been a very silly question. Today, given the situation that we are in, these questions are really important, especially because the person could have been infected. The same questions could be extended to other places. It could be a lecture hall, or it could be your classroom, or it could be a crowded place like a national park. When will we completely feel safe going to such common places? Would wearing a mask help? Or would maintaining a certain distance from other people help everyone remain safe? What kind of masks should we wear? And does it really matter how we wear it? Think about it. To answer such questions, we need to think about much deeper questions like, does the virus travel through air? If yes, then how long will it stay in the air? Or how fast do they transmit? Too many questions, right? But these are all very important questions. To answer these questions, today we are going to look into what are called aerosols. Aerosols are just like the stuff that comes out of a perfume bottle or your hairspray. Technically, we can define aerosol as the suspension of tiny particles in air or other gases. These particles can be very tiny, like it could be anywhere from 10 times or 100 times smaller than the thickness of human hair. These are usually observed under a microscope, and they play a very huge role on our climate and health. Let's look at some common examples. Smoke from forest fires, desert dust, air pollutants are some of the common examples. These contain billions of tiny particles suspended. Despite their sizes, they play a huge role on our climate and health. They have a wide range of applications, including you can predict weather. It's used in medical science, consumer products, and importantly, studying the transmission of viruses and other kinds of infections. By studying these aerosols using engineering methods, you can improve public health, and you can also prevent the rapid transmission of viruses in the future. Now, as we all know, recently the COVID-19 virus has been a major threat. There are many ways in which the virus can be transmitted from one person to another. Sneezing, coughing, or even talking will release thousands of droplets from your mouth, which can now travel through air. These droplets can be of different sizes, and they can certainly travel through air. If these came from an infected person, then you can imagine these droplets containing the virus particles and eventually hitting another person who will be inhaling it without even knowing it. That'll be the end of this video. Now, let's test our understanding.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. There is currently no vaccine to prevent coronavirus disease. The best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to this virus. Now that many countries are mandating the use of masks in public places. But what can we expect from these masks? To figure that out, let's firstly look at how virus transmission really occurs. Different diseases have different modes of transmission. There's airborne transmission by small particles, transmission by contact or formats, fecal-oral transmission, and many more. One disease can have multiple modes of transmission. Influenza that's transmitted by aerosols is generally thought to be associated with a more severe disease than influenza that's transmitted by a contact or formats. As we know, the germs can be easily spread by cough and sneeze. and we are told to cover it with our elbow. Here I want to show you that even if you cover, you still cannot stop those human droplets from traveling to your surroundings. Our cough or sneeze consists of many large and small droplets. Those large droplets usually fall down after traveling in the air for 1 to 2 meters due to gravity. The fine droplets can travel even further before they fall to the ground and other surfaces. When droplets fall on surfaces, uninfected individuals can pick them up by touching their face and get infected. That's why hand washing is so crucial. For different sizes of droplets, their moving distances in our body are different. The aerosol particles that are smaller than 10 micrometers can penetrate down below the glottis, while the particles that are smaller than 2.5 micrometers can penetrate all the way down into the alveolar space. Now, as you can imagine that particles penetrate deeper down into the lungs can cause pneumonia, versus particles penetrate into the upper respiratory tract can cause upper respiratory tract infections like bronchitis. Severely affected symptomatic patients with COVID-19 tend to have pneumonia rather than upper respiratory tract disease. This indicates that the virus penetrates deep down into the lungs by very small airborne particles. So the lower the particle size, the more problematic, right? In real life, how are these droplets and aerosols actually produced? While through coughing, sneezing, spitting, but probably even through the regular breathing or just speaking. Julian and co-workers have created a visualization of breaths exchanged by two people in conversation standing 1 meter apart. Most of the time, the pools of air they let out remain separate, but portions of their exhalation still sneak from each person's breathing space into the others. So it's conceivable that in crowded public transport or public events, all people breathing on each other may also lead to transmission of infections, even without any coughing going on. This is so important and shows how social distancing, staying at least 2 meters apart, is so important, even if each should be carrying a mask. You here, aren't you curious about how far can these droplets travel? Believe me, they can travel much further than you expected. 2 meters is a magic number from social distancing guidelines. But the next video will show you the droplets from a cough can spread 12 feet. A researcher group from Florida Atlantic University demonstrated how sneeze and cough droplets travel in still air using a mixture of water and glycerin as cough and sneeze jets. As we watched, the particles bursting into the air and spreading further and further as time's going on. Researchers used laser lights to show the particles spreading in the dark. As a result, particles from a heavy cough or sneeze in the experiment had traveled 9 feet by 41 seconds, and the particles could linger for around 1 minute and a half. This suggested that avoid close contact with people who are sick. Keeping a distance between yourself and others can greatly reduce the possibility of transmission. The further you get away, the more diluted droplets you meet, the safer you are, right? Now, please allow me to summarize that how to protect yourself and others from COVID-19. To reduce airborne transmission, please cover your mouth and nose with a closed face cover when around others. To help prevent the contact transmission, please clean your hands often. Also remember the social distancing. Finally, here are some expert tips. Hope you enjoyed.
Hey everyone, it's Sarah with RegisteredNurseRN.com, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to wear and take off a mask. First, let's talk about some of the common mistakes that people make whenever wearing a mask like this. One common mistake that people make is that when they wear the mask, they will wear it under the nose. Another common mistake is that people will fail to seal the top of the mask around the nose and cheeks. In addition, people will sometimes fail to pull the mask under the chin. People also wear the mask upside down or backwards. And finally, while wearing the mask, people will sometimes touch the front of the mask, which is considered contaminated. Now let me give you some tips on how to wear the mask. So first, you need to determine which part actually goes over your nose, this part or that part. So to do that, what you want to do is you want to feel along those edges. And what you're feeling for is like a metal type band that's sewn into the mask that's easily flexible, that can fit over your nose, and that's the top part. Next, what you want to do is you want to determine which part of the mask is the front versus the back. And there's two ways you can do this. And if you're using a mask with ear loops, you can look at the ear loops, and where they are sewn at, this will be the area that goes on the face. So on this mask, they're sewn here, so this is the part that goes over my face. Also, you can look at the pleats of the mask and look at how they are pointing. When the pleats are pointing downward, this is the part that goes on the outside, versus the pleats that are pointing upward, that's the part that's going to touch your face. Before we put on a mask, we want to perform hand hygiene. When using a face mask with ear loops, place each loop over the ears. Then grasp the nose piece of the mask and bring it to cover the bridge of the nose. Then mold the nose piece of the face mask with the fingertips of both hands by starting at the bridge of the nose and work outward toward the cheekbone. Then grasp the nose piece of the face mask and pull the bottom of the mask under the chin. When removing the mask, it's important to remember that the front of the mask is considered contaminated. Therefore, grasp the ear loops of the mask with the fingertips and remove from the face. Dispose or clean and store for future use the mask per facility's protocol, and then perform hand hygiene.
Okay guys, now I guess you already understand what is an aerosol and how we can properly wear our face masks. But now please take 5 seconds to think about these two questions. The first one is why we need to wear our face mask. The second one is under what condition you really want to put that on. I believe you guys have already seen these pictures a lot of times in those meme videos, but yes, the answer is it matters to put on your face mask when somebody is sneezing around you. But now you may want to ask, so it's just the answer of the second question, so what about the answer of the first question? So don't be worried, we are about to get into the details of that. So now let's take a look at a case in the real world. Okay, now as you can see, this man is sneezing, but I put this picture actually in the corner of this page. So why am I doing this? It's because I'm about to compare this man with another thing, which is a car on the highway. So let's take a guess on what's the speed when you're driving on the highway. I mean, at here in Memphis, I know it's probably 70 or 80, but in general, it should be 60 miles per hour. So let's think about this question. How do you think what the speed is when you actually sneeze? I mean the speed of those droplets. 30, 40, 35, 45 at most? No, not really. So it's actually, I can tell you, it's 75 miles per hour. It means if you are sneezing right by a highway, actually your sneeze can go even faster than a car on the highway. Okay, I know sometimes the numbers are just not that intuitive to us, so let's take a look at this quick conversion. I have 75 miles per hour, which is the same as 110 feet per second. So how long it takes for your sneeze to travel 6 feet? The 6 feet is just the recommended distance. The answer is 0.05 seconds. It's exactly how long you're gonna take to blink. Okay, now you are probably thinking that it's terrible. The sneeze travels too fast. It only takes 0.5 seconds to travel 6 feet. But trust me on this, it's even worse. So we all know that when we are sneezing, we are not only just shooting water through our mouths, right? We have all kinds of germs and the virus there in the little droplets in the air. So let's take a look at this picture. This is a picture captured by a high-speed camera. As you can see, there are millions of little droplets there in the aerosol. But another thing you may already noticed is that they all in different sizes. So if you take a look at this statistical data, we can see around 80% of the droplets are pretty small. By pretty small, I mean its diameter is smaller than 0.01 millimeter. Now you may want to say, I'm pretty safe now because those droplets are really small. No, the answer is no, you are not safe, and that is the problem. What fluid mechanics says is that if you have one bigger droplet and one smaller droplet, the bigger one takes shorter time to fall and the smaller one stays in the air for a longer time. Well, but by how long? So here in this case I'm circling out the smaller droplets in blue and the bigger droplets in green. The green one takes no more than 2 seconds to fall to the ground, but the smaller one can stay in the air for at most 45 minutes. So why it's like that? It's because when the size of a drop goes down, the mass of the drop goes down as well, but the drag associated with their mass goes up. Well, you can understand this as the smaller droplets is more easier to get stuck in the air. It's a good news because when you sneeze, the smaller droplets cannot really travel longer than the 6 feet. So does it mean you are safe now if you are 6 feet away from another one who's sneezing? No, it's not. Don't forget that even though the little droplets are stuck in the air, but the air is actually moving. Like the background is actually moving. So when you sneeze, you are actually creating an air jet through your mouth. So that air jet can carry those small droplets and the virus fly to around 24 feet. And also after flying across those 24 feet, the droplets and the virus in your sneeze is not just gonna fall into the ground, it's just gonna stay here in the air and remaining like floating for another 45 or at least 30-45 minutes. And also, by the way, if you are interested in the force, the drag force acting on the little droplets, this is the part I didn't explain in details about fluid mechanics in this movie. So you are welcome to come to our Zoom meeting and maybe we can explain this in detail there about how it's gonna influence the falling time of the droplets and also their terminal velocities. Well, as you can see here, if a man is sneezing to you and he's not wearing any face masks or facial protection, so what's gonna happen is, well, it's a little bit nasty, but you are taking 100% whatever he's delivering. Okay, let's take a look at this example now. So the man on the left is sneezing as well this time, shooting out those virus and droplets through his mouth. But now he's wearing a face mask this time. So what the face mask does is just basically split the airflow into 2 streams. One goes down and one goes up. The one goes down will eventually reaches the ground, and the one goes up will carry the virus to a relatively high position, so you don't need to worry about to breathe those viruses in anymore. But you know, there is still gonna be a little bit virus or airflow penetrates the face mask, but unless you are staying really close to the man, so otherwise it's not gonna be a big problem. So it's not gonna hurt you anymore, nothing to worry about. So at this point of time, after learning the previous section, so you started to wear your face mask now. But is this the perfect way to keep you safe? Let's take a look at this example now. So when you're in the midtown or downtown area, you will see a lot of people around you. So having more people means there is a higher probability to have a person who's infected. So which means, of course, there will be some virus left over in the air. But now you are super confident because you know the face mask will help you to filter out most of the virus. But it's still not the whole story. So think about this condition. If you are playing with your balloon, so what's gonna happen if there is a very little tiny small hole on the balloon? You know the air is gonna be leaking out very quickly through the hole, right? It's the same thing here when you are trying to breathe. The air around you just feels more resistant if they are trying to come through your mask. So the air will be always trying to figure out a easier way to get through, which means most likely you will breathe the air in through the gaps between your mask and your face. If there is just 1 or 2 breaths, you are totally fine, it's not gonna infect you, but just don't stay at a place for a too long time. So if you breathe too much virus, it's gonna be a big problem here. Hey, surprise, it's the end of class, but there are some questions following still. So for your safety and for your family's safety, just please read these questions carefully. Just do a quick self-check to see if you understand and remember all of these topics. Why to wear the mask and how to wear the mask. And what's gonna happen if you didn't wear the mask or didn't wear it properly. Think about the consequence. And more importantly, what's the best way to stay safe? I know you already got the answer. And this time is really the time to say goodbye. Thank you guys and have a great day.